It was, yeah.
Want to do it all together? 1, 2, 3.
So, Alex.
What's up, guys?
I don't know why you're asking that. We've been here for the last 3 days.
Yeah, but it's like this is just the first window for the rest of the world. It's sort of putting on the whole. Have you done videos before?
What?
Dude, it's pretty new to me, actually.
It's not like I start my Schmorgle videos and it's like, I just finished breakfast, guys. Like, you saw me pour.
Yeah, you were all there. Right. So we're sitting here with Alex Morgan, or as some people may know him on the YouTube space, Schmorgle.
Yeah, Schmorgle. That's what my friends call me.
Yes, and we're still on our way to becoming friends with Alex, but
Please.
Someday I hope so. A little bit of a backstory about how we came to be out here with you to shoot this. Alex got featured on Andrew Huang's channel. When was that?
That was probably February. Does that sound right? Maybe a little later. Maybe March.
Probably right before. Oh, gosh, was it during?
It was before.
Just
It was before the
right?
pandemic.
Okay, so that would have had to been January, February.
Yeah, probably February, I'd say.
Okay. If you don't know who Andrew Huang is a music producer, YouTuber, 2 million subs, and Alex got featured on there, and Andrew didn't have anything except for nice things to say about his beautiful voice.
Yeah, it was very complimentary, but that was pretty much it.
Yeah,
Actually,
loved his voice.
He kept saying stuff like that, but the thing I was most stoked about is like, it seems well recorded, well produced, and I was like, that's what I latched on
exactly.
to.
Yeah, that's what you've been working towards.
Yeah, that's why I took his class. That's a little more
Mm-hmm.
context. I took his Learn Monthly class, and they were doing a sort of showcase of some of his listeners and students, I think, to promote the class.
Yeah. I liked Alex's sound. I liked the songwriting that he was doing in it.
Thanks, man.
I liked the direction that you took, especially as soon as that chorus hit. That was when my ears really perked up.
For Bet It All, that
Yeah,
first
for
one?
Bet It All, yeah. And part of that is just unexpected, but also a welcome unexpected.
Nice.
But I thought if there's any time to reach out to this guy, I should reach out now. Found out that he was in the LA area, and I had a gig to come down here and shoot some stuff, and thought that I'll just come off of that gig and come down to either SLO or to LA and shoot a music video with Alex. And that's why we're here. One of the things we kind of wanted to talk about today was being an artist or being a creative of some kind in 2020, before coronavirus and after coronavirus, or during coronavirus, because things were still pretty interesting.
I feel like I hardly remember life before this, but
I know.
there was one.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
I think so.
I wasn't born during this.
Yeah, I doubt it. It'd be kind of weird. I don't know if I should be working with
I'm
you.
a very big baby.
Yeah. So let's talk before coronavirus. What was your experience being a musician in the 21st century? 2019 and beyond.
Man, it's a good question because it's kind of all over the place. My journey is one that it feels unique to me, but I guarantee there are so many people like me who have had a similar process of basically just a hodgepodge, a cobbling together of different artistic endeavors and different gigs to sort of make this Frankenstein of a career that I have. And for better and for worse, the core of it doesn't look a ton different post pandemic, but it definitely was more vibrant beforehand.
Yeah, no joke.
I mean, the short story is that like I was just writing a lot of music myself and like bartending and waiting tables like a lot of people until I was going to drive myself crazy, and I decided to take the necessary leap that most artists do that don't hit breaks. You just say, I'm going to refuse to do anything else but this.
Right.
And when I made that choice, it was fairly soon after I decided to move back to LA. I'm from LA, and was living in New York at the time. So I quit my day job without any other real plans other than to build a portfolio. I'd been doing a lot of, again, hodgepodge work of like editing, sound design, composition. The biggest gig I had, which sort of made me feel like a real musician, was playing guitar for a touring pop artist. I toured with this artist named Livia, who my music sounds nothing like her. So anyone who found me probably wouldn't know exactly her music, but she's great. She was a lovely person to work for. And I got my chops up. Like it was pop music and it was to a grid. It was really tight. So I had to have perfect timing, perfect notes. I worked with some really, really amazing musical directors who were like, it was a master. It was like going to grad school.
Yeah. Was this tail end of 2019 or?
So I worked with her from 2017 to 2019.
Okay.
On and off. It was like all over the place. The last one was 2019, I believe.
Yeah.
Now you started though in acting. How did you end up transitioning into that, and when did that transition happen?
I started in acting theoretically and philosophically. I don't think I've ever been paid to act in my life. Sure. I don't think, other than like some voiceover stuff, which kind of bleeds over into what I do. But I mean, I thought I wanted to be an actor since I was a kid, and it's been in my family. Like my dad's a filmmaker, and my mom's a writer, and
I didn't know your dad was a filmmaker. I knew he was in radio.
Yes, his career is really in radio, but he made a lot of films, and he went to USC for film school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Back in the day, he was there while they still had like the old bungalows that they would cut film in. Like it was legit, like USC glory days. Yeah. So it was always around, and then I went to college for it. I went to conservatory for acting, and then in every spare second I had, I was writing music. I think I was telling you guys before, like before I knew how to record music, I had a photo booth. You know how like old MacBooks had like that clunky photo booth thing where you take selfies and like you do like the four square. What's that?
The different pop art sort of.
Yeah, the pop art thing.
Yeah.
So
Andy
I would
Warhol.
just use it. Yeah, Andy Warhol, exactly. Yeah. So I would use it to show my hands and remember what very basic chords I was playing for my songwriting, and I had hundreds of those.
Okay.
And so it was a slow thing where I got the hint where it's like my artist life wasn't in acting; it was in pursuing music. And then I got my first gig in New York about a year after doing a short film for I can never say his name, Antoine. He's a French guy. I did a short film for him, and I was like, I'm hooked. I want to do this. Yeah. This is my life.
Do you think that, I mean, has the acting coaching that you received in school, has that bled over into your performance as a musician at all, do you feel?
100%.
Okay. Because that would make a lot of sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
That comfort of being a show for somebody, performing for people.
I think so. And there's a lot of ways to answer that. There's sort of like the artsy fartsy answer and then like the very practical answer. And I think both are applicable for my thing.
Well, just give us the artsy fartsy answer.
Just the artsy fartsy?
Yeah, that's all we're interested in.
That's
well,
it.
I mean, I went to a school that was very much about like finding your voice in a sort of metaphorical, spiritual sense, you know, like you find what and how you're trying to say something, what you're trying to say, how you're trying to say it. And there's a lot of stuff that I think looking back on was challenging and confusing about going to conservatory style. There's a lot of lines that were crossed. Yeah. But it ultimately, like when people ask me, like, do you regret it? Would you rather go to music school? No, I think it taught me everything I needed to know. One, how to just be an artistic human in the world, period. And two, how to dig deeper. How to move past forcing something to sort of get out of my own way to find the real stuff underneath.
Yeah, that's it makes me think of a Miles Davis quote that I'm probably going to butcher it, but it's something along the lines of, it took me years to sound like myself. Mm-hmm. And
I feel that way too.
Yeah, and I've felt that way about, I mean, I'm a very much a side musician that I will plink around on the piano and
I heard you play on mine. You sound great.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
But I'll recording things on my phone, little audio notes.
Yeah.
And I still do perform just in a band for fun. Mm-hmm. And but just about everything that I'm doing, especially in that vein, I'm wanting it to be genuine, and I think that's a difficult place to get to when you are looking at all these people you see as influences.
Yeah.
All these artists that you are looking up to, that you want to sound like, but you don't want to sound like you're ripping them off, or sounding like, oh, he's just trying to sound like that genre, and he's clearly not from that genre.
Yeah.
His voice doesn't fit it. And it's a trial by fire. For
yeah.
sure.
And I think, but that's where I learned to write, like trying to emulate and shamelessly stealing, frankly, people's sounds. And I was always a really bad campfire guitarist because I was only writing. I never was learning other people's songs, but I was learning how they made those songs. And I was always trying to sound like that Radiohead tune, sound like that Muse tune, sound like that Nirvana tune. And it all, again, like my career, I think artistically was just this cobbled together Frankenstein of a sound.
It's exciting to hear an artist that has taken, more than one of the artists that you listen to or appreciate and combined their sounds in some way. Mm-hmm. Nobody's original. In case anybody's wondering out there, nobody's original.
Yeah, not entirely, at least.
Not entirely, right? Yeah.
I think all the people who you would think are the most original people ever will say like, "Oh yeah, I was totally influenced by that person."
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's a great series on YouTube called Everything is a Remix, where it looks at that, and it's basically the idea that the people you think are the most original are really combining a lot of elements of different things and coming up with something new by mixing those things.
And I like, don't get me wrong, I think there's a real art form to writing in genre and being respectful to where your musical taste comes from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I look at someone like Jack White, who I really admire his respect to history and his like unabashed like pointing out, it's like my sound comes from this, and I respect that a lot. But in the same vein, I think like not putting too much of a magnifying glass as to why this lead line comes from here, or why this instrument comes from here, or why this groove comes from there, and letting it filter through the uniqueness of who you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a very freeing thing when you try and let go of that obligation.
Absolutely. That's I think when I first started writing guitar riffs, I love heavy rock, I love alternative rock, and one of the first things that I did before I learned how to play any instruments was I was writing riffs in my head. I was like, oh, this is my Rage riff. This is my Audio Slave riff. This is my Queens of the Stone Age riff. Getting away from that and just coming up with something, just feeling out the guitar. There's been so many times when I'll just be sitting down at the computer or something like that, and something will just come to my head, and I can't do anything other than go run to the guitar right then, pick it up, and try and put it out there.
Yeah.
And I have no idea where it comes from.
Yeah, I think some of my favorite artists like have similar narratives. Like, what was it? I'm sure this isn't it, and whoever watched this is going to know exactly who I'm trying to. Maybe you guys will know who I'm trying to quote.
Rebecca Black.
Yeah, Rebecca Black. Yeah. It's Friday.
Okay, yeah.
No, I think it was Sylvia Plath or something, where it's like a poem moves through like a demon, and then you can either catch it by the tail or not. Right. That's a very dark, dramatic way to put it, but that's how it can feel like.
Yeah,
it's like
absolutely.
You don't. You have autonomy how you shape it, but sometimes those ideas kind of pass through you, and you can either grasp onto them or not.
Yeah. I've made the mistake too many times of not grasping onto them.
Yeah, sure. Oh, all of us have, totally.
Actually, we should probably bring it back to topic. That pre-coronavirus, what has it been like being a musician, trying to make it sustainable to just be a musician?
I think, again, it was like very cobbled together for me. I found myself, when I was touring with Livia and playing with some other musicians, I got to be honest with you, that was a very lucky gig for me. A lot of people really grind that thing out. And for me, it was knowing the right person and being at the right place at the right time. Yeah. Which also was like a short-lived thing, like those tours, every touring musician knows that those don't last forever, and you're always looking for your next gig. For me, I was really, right after that gig, I was at a crossroads. I was like, do I pursue the sideman thing? Do I pursue the like playing guitar for other people? Or do I double down on what really excites me in terms of writing and producing? Yeah. And I chose the scarier option, which was that. So most of the things that paid my bills were very unexciting editing, compositional stuff. Some of them were exciting. The occasional like scoring was really fun. I didn't make any money off of Spotify or anything like that. The first time I've made any significant amount of money off of that has been this past year.
Yeah.
After the Andrew Huang stuff. So pre-coronavirus, it was really just like whatever was in front of me, whatever editing thing. It was a podcast. It was a composition thing. It was editing radio spots. Because I could have made more money going down the sideman thing. Very glad I didn't commit to that now, because I would be just donezo.
Right.
Like a lot of my friends are.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah.
But I knew that I had to, and you guys, I know you can relate to this. I knew that I had to, for what I really wanted, the way I envisioned my skill sets and what my weird career would look like, I had to learn those things myself. I had to sit down and take classes and look at videos and read and fit the skill sets I know I needed into that toolkit. So that's what I did. I kind of went on a sabbatical in a way of performing and just like learned.
What is that? I mean, looking back at that time when you made that decision, what did that feel like? What were some of the, because I know that we've all in various ways made these kinds of leaps, but that's a really big leap to make. What did that feel like at the time? And looking back on it now.
Yeah. It felt, I'm someone who I'm an oxymoron because I really like structure, but I also thrive with change. I like things to, when I do change them, to find that pace quickly. I prefer that. But change usually resets. New ventures really get me going, really reinvigorate me. So the idea of, I was also like on a personal level, like I was coming out of a relationship. I was thinking about moving cities. It was like all these things percolating that was like, why not just jump in fully? Why not really do the deep end here? And also, like, I was getting older. I'm not old, but like I am getting older. We're all getting older. Yeah. It's like if
I'm man.
You stay young forever.
You guys are older than me, so.
Yeah. So one of my buddies wrote in a lyric, "Stay young till you die." It was just like a now or never kind of thing in my mind, and it's never too late to do that, I think. But for me personally, it was a now or never thing.
Yeah. From the filmmaking side of it, or the brand marketing side of it, when I had come upon this decision to jump in 100%, it was saying a ton.
You're thinking. That's the international sound for thinking.
Real good. I had tried my hand at a lot of different things, and I had done so happily that it wasn't a sellout. It wasn't a compromise to what I wasn't sacrificing happiness to do these other things.
Did it feel like a dramatic paradigm shift though, or was it?
Certainly.
Was it just like an obvious, like this is the next step?
It did. I mean, it both. Yeah, it certainly felt like both. That it was the jump into it was really just I genuinely tried my hand at these other things, and they didn't pan out for whatever reason, and I was kind of left with this, and it was that decision of, well, I could go try and find another job. I could go get a job at, wherever. I'm sure a retail store would hire me, or I could go back to school or something like that. Or I could use some of this extra money that I have at this time to go invest in this thing. And I went that direction, and it's definitely a jumping into the deep end sort of scenario where you don't have a whole lot of a safety net going on there, and that's what obviously keeps a lot of people from trying it. But it didn't feel foolish. It felt like the right thing, and I'm the kind of person that I want to appear to my family and my friends as not being a fool, not being an idiot. So I think that was the scariest part, to know that it was the right thing, but to still feel that, like, some people might be looking at this and thinking that, oh, that's a foolish thing for you to do, because how could you expect to make a living off of doing videos? And I'm assuming that you've probably had a similar thing with friends and family.
I think it's strange because I have a lot of friends who also do what you guys do and what I do, and so they kind of get it, and they know that like it's not always about what the biggest paycheck is, but what the biggest sort of splash or return emotionally or response wise. So like what happened with the Andrew stuff, like one of my favorite texts was from one of my buddies being like, dude, way to manifest this. And it was one of those things where I had said like investing in YouTube is one of the dumbest things you could ever do. Mm-hmm. But if it's going to keep me on a deadline and finish some songs and actually like put myself out there, I'm going to do it.
Right.
And I said like, I'm going to meet my peers. This is actually a great thing. I reached out to when this will get back to your question, I promise. When I decided to take a leap into sort of doing more things on my terms, more being my own boss, I reached out to this guy I really like who does composition for podcasts. Mm-hmm. This guy Arnie Parrott, who very insular, like nuanced group of podcasts and listeners and stuff. It's a very niche thing. But I reached out to him and be like, how do I do what you do more? And I said it just like that.
That's a great question. Yeah.
And my syntax was perfect.
Yeah.
And he fed back some really good advice that I think about all the time. It's like, find the people that scare you and make them your peers. And that was exactly the thing I thought of when I saw Andrew throw up that class. And it was like, and it was expensive. And like, I didn't have a ton of money to play with, but I was like, I know I want to learn production. I know he's a huge influence. And like, I love what he does and I want to do what he does. What's really keeping me from making that investment? And it was 100% fear of unknown, 100% like, is this a worthy investment? And to your point, I don't think anything worthwhile in this life has a return policy. You have to be willing to lose in that risk.
Yeah.
And so being in that modality of like, I'm changing my life, I might be moving, I don't have a girlfriend, like I'm gonna do it. And lo and behold, as my friend said, I manifested making Andrew Huang, a dude I look up to, in a very small way, my peer.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's like and something I lose track of sometimes to this moment during the pandemic, but like it's something I never want to ever lose again. And like that way of thinking can be really powerful.